All right, so we're sure we have the recording. And hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm very happy you joined the symposium this year. My name is Dorota. I will make a short introduction and then I will invite the speakers to do their work. But before we share the examples and make our conversations, interviews, etc., I want to just make sure that you know how the symposium will flow and what will happen, how. So just quickly explaining. This is the Third International Symposium on Photos in Coaching and Personal Growth. And I hope for all of you, all of us, and those who will still join and those who will listen afterwards, it's going to be an opportunity to get inspiration and to learn really from the world-class professionals who all are also great leaders because all of them founded long-lasting organizations or projects, professional projects. I hope it's going also to be an occasion for you to reflect on your practice, on your professional practice, and gain insights, to your future growth. So there will be two presentations, like case studies from hands-on experience, and two interviews, and a panel discussion. So for those of you who took part in the last editions of the symposium, it's going to be a little bit different this year because we have this expert panel. And I hope it's going to be interesting because we are not going only to talk about the tools, techniques, case studies, but also about ethics, contracting, communication. The whole event will take 2.5 hours, so it's not very long, and I think within these 2.5 hours you will have a lot of insights and a lot of food for thought, as we say. All the presentations and interviews and the panel, this is all going to be, happening nonstop. So no, just little breaks, not really breaks, but just inviting a new person, introducing a new person, but no debrief after the presentations. And at the end, after all the presentations are done, we will have a short Q&A session, so you can place your questions, your comments, reflections in the chat during the whole event directly when you have an idea, a question, and the panelists will look at this during the symposium so we can quickly get to these questions at the end. This is recorded, and that's important because many people want to watch it afterwards. Maybe you will also. I will send the link to everyone, also to you. Yes, and you are as participants muted, so we can have this clear space when only speakers speak. So don't be angry, but you have the chat, so you can always comment in the chat. And yes, and right after the symposium, some people wanted to join my course on photography and coaching. So after the symposium, when we close it, I will still stay. And for those of you who are interested in joining the course, I will make a short orientation meeting. So there is this opportunity also to talk about the course afterwards. Yeah, and this is it as to the introduction. I have prepared, as last year, as 2 years ago, a small introductory talk, let's say, introductory speech, which I will, in a moment, I'll share these ideas with you. But before, I would like to just quickly tell you who are the speakers. So there's a couple of really interesting people with us today, and I'm very, very grateful for the speakers to accept this opportunity this opportunity to speak, but also to co-create this event with me. So you should normally see them in these upper windows. We have I'm just now listening as I see you. Nikki Toroda from United Kingdom, Mandy Seligman from USA, Bridget Austin from UK, Kasia Hafteklis from currently Spain and Poland as well. Wendy Ann Smith from France, but originally Australia. Ruth Davy from UK, and Ellen Patricia from Indonesia, and Judy Weiser from Canada. Judy will probably not be able to join technically, but we will see later on. And me from Poland, based in Warsaw. The symposium, it is kind of a conference. It serves, to connect in this really large community of professionals who use photos in coaching, in therapy, in art therapy, in personal growth, in different practices from all over the world. And as you know, there is a big group on Facebook facilitated by Judy Weiser. The community counts currently more than 12,000 people. So it's a big community. And I'm doing this symposium for all of us to have that chance to not only be online separately, reading, sharing on Facebook maybe, but to really meet to see at least our faces and to exchange a little bit. So for me, it's also, I see it as a platform to meet, to connect to the people, to have that feeling that we belong to a family of professionals who are sharing the same passions or interests. So thank you very much for joining. And now, let me just tell you a little bit, why did I say in my title, Professional Borders and Creativity? Why this connection? This is a connection I've been exploring really a lot this year. And I realized something obvious, that very often coaches or other people, other professionals who, for instance, contact me or join my course or just contact me simply or in the supervision, they ask me how to start using photos in sessions, how to explain it to clients. And then I realized it's not a bit about tools and techniques, but it's about communicating, contracting, getting consent, about how we build a relationship with our clients around using these art-based techniques. So I wanted to bring this topic this year about these professional borders, creativity, and professional boundaries and possibilities. And of course, when you hear that question, it might be obvious for you about how to use photos in sessions. Well, the answer is obvious. It's as you start any other session or program. So you clarify the goals, you clarify the coaching goals or developmental goals, the specific objectives, the purpose that your client has in mind. So, and it's in coaching, but the same happens in any developmental programs. So that's always about contracting, communicating why, what for, what will be the outcome. And you ask your clients about what they need, what they want to achieve as a result. And then when you work always towards these goals with your client, it's not about you work to use photos, you work towards clients' goals, and then you can eventually use photos, images, pictures, or even photo taking. But it happens as you would probably use other methods. So it means that you will explain that to the client clearly, what, why, and how. Well, let's have an example. It's a simple example, but let's imagine a client wants to decide on changing something in life. And let's say you would explore how they feel now and how the changes they want to make would positively influence their well-being in the future. And you can introduce photos to your work, and you can simply ask or propose to your client to describe how they would feel, to choose photos that illustrate, or to take photos that illustrate how they would feel in the future when they achieve their goals. So the picture it comes naturally as a method. It also comes logically for those of you who use it. And but it only happens when it is clear what is the purpose of your work with the client. So exploring, why do we use photos? We exploring potential meanings, actually. It's not about the photo itself, it's not about the picture. It's about the meaning that the client finds behind the meaning, the emotional response. And we know that the exploring photos help us to stimulate the thinking, the feeling, the memory, the imagination, sensing, self-expression, and as a result, creativity as well. So we are going beyond the routine thinking, the routine way of thinking. And when we think and imagine, and this is what we do in coaching, we produce these sensory images. Yeah, there is an image, there's a sensation, there's a feeling, and we know from science today that the more we can connect our ideas to images and feelings and other sensations, the more power these ideas will have. So we just use them in our practice to help people feel, think, express, increase motivation to take action. So it's the same as all other tools. What I also wanted to say when I was reflecting before the symposium is that I kept asking myself in the past years, for really many, more than 10 years, to use or not to use a photo, to do it or not to do it. And in many sessions I used photos, I introduced photos. In some, I didn't decide. So there is always a decision. And I can't say if the sessions when I used photos were better if I didn't use them. It's not possible, to repeat the session. A session happens only once. But I know that these sessions were unforgettable, and I know that clients were very often positively surprised by the quality of the insights, by the insights, by the content, by what were the insights. So I think that gave me the evidence why that the photos really take us beyond this routine thinking. But the point is actually, and this is for me a special theme for this year's symposium, is how to use these images within professional boundaries. So I specifically invited this year speakers to cover these topics. And actually recently I had in September a big workshop for coaching students, and the questions they have asked me, I have them here, so I read them, were exactly about this professional practice, how to use tools in coaching boundaries, how to approach a client during coaching in terms of using photos, how to use photos in their interpretation is always personal. How can the same photo be used in different situations? So this is just an example of things. And so I invited experts who I hope provoke us to think about it, about ethics, about best practices in contracting, in communicating, the use of photos with clients. And I hope that this will help you also to reflect on how you do that, how you introduce photos, images, pictures, and actually art-related techniques or tools to your work which take us beyond this routine way of working. So there is more of unexpected to come, probably. Yeah, and yes, so this is my introduction. This is how I wanted to build a little bit the ground for the presentations that are coming soon. Maybe one thing I want to say that the examples are not necessarily from pure coaching sessions. Very often they will be from personal development fields or from long-term experiences or medium-term experiences lasting for several months, for instance, sometimes years, when people went through a certain personal development journey and they used photos, photography, coaching, and other methods. So it's not like it's so strict. So don't take it that, for instance, I'm calling non-coaching interventions coaching. No, I don't want to put it into one. It's just the title of the symposium is in coaching and personal growth. So it's just all about using photos in different contexts and different aspects of photos. So we're really building like bridges between professions, between fields, but also we are finding common ground rules, I hope, and good practices that will serve all of us. Yes, so and you will also see during the panel discussion, you will see there will be two people from coaching profession where we have codes of ethics and the professional framework is well set, and we will have for instance Ruth Davy, who works in the mindful photography where the field itself is quite young and there are no such things like code of ethics. So the question is how to build ethically the practice, where to source from. So that's how you can look at what we are going to present in a very open way. Good. So that's my introduction, finally. And not to make you wait too much for the first presentation, I would like to invite my dear colleague Kasia Hafteklis, who will share, I think, a very inspiring journey towards creativity. Kasia is a certified life coach, also a certified mindfulness teacher, United Mindfulness Organization. And she's also a leader of the Family Connections TM program. So Kasia will present her personal project, and I hope it's going to be very inspiring for you. I will share your slides, Kasia.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I hope everyone can see you now, and let me click your slides, and I wish you good luck. Okay.
Thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me.
Just a moment. I'm trying to, to set the slideshow view. And the struggle is that I am, having many windows open now when I'm here facilitating the symposium, but I can see it already. So voila. Now I think you can see your slides already. Yes. Kasia, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Dorota. Thank you for your kind introduction. So my name is Kasia, and I'd like to share my photographic journey towards creativity with you. while I'm on a journey right now as well myself, because I'm in Spain and normally I reside in Poland. So it's like a double take on that. So I gave a little subtitle to this speech, and it says, "Grief paralyzes and creation moves." And it seems very important, like an important takeaway from the journey that I will try to explain further on. So for a long time, I did not really allow myself to call myself an artist, to be an artist. And I kind of waited for some kind of permission, maybe believing that art wasn't serious enough, wasn't useful enough, maybe not something you could build your life around. And then unexpectedly, grief after my parents' passing became my authority. And photography became the language that I needed to speak to explain my lived experience, first to myself and then later to share it as the complete process. So let me begin, and we can change the slide, with an image that is a layered and almost abstract photograph. And this is my first conscious photographic gesture. And in this photograph, I took my mother's handwritten recipe and placed it against a background of a painting that belonged to my great-grandmother. So it was a double exposure in one take. And I guess I didn't quite realize it at the time, but it was my first step towards healing. And an attempt really to hold on and in the same time to let go, keep the memories and release the grief, because my mother already passed when that happened. And so this was the first one, the first image I took. And then I continued through the years, as in time my father also passed, to merge themes, textures, and traces, like sensing that there was a quiet pulse of something new forming, but I was still aching a lot from the grief that I was experiencing. So I sensed also that I was in between this space, that I was suspended, and suspended between something forming and something from the past. I called it between vanishing and becoming, and it sort of like became the name for the whole series of photographs that I took, and also a starting point for a transformation. And so after taking this one photograph, I then took my camera to the places of my childhood. One was where my father lived and spent his final years. So it was a little cottage, and it was then full of presence and absence because he left all his things behind. And I went there photographing everything, every worn fabric, clothes, little objects, details, shoes, whatever I could find. And then I did the same thing in the house that belonged to both my parents, where they lived when my mother was still alive. And again, this was still filled with their belongings. So I was kind of doing this intuitive cataloging of emotional traces, as I call it. And it wasn't a rational inventory, but it was rather a raw and very messy process. And I later called it, like, for myself, a memory dump, because it was as if I was trying to spill out fragments of the past and all the unfinished stories through the act of taking photographs for the details. And so this photographing became a form of emotional data processing. I'm like referring this to the computational language because it kind of like gives me a way to explain it better, I think. So in an attempt to transform these memories, look for meaning and acceptance, I think I had this opportunity to grow as a person, possibly mature as an adult as well, but definitely leave behind the mindset of a child who has lost her parents. So that became a little bit of a shift. And the camera in this process became both a mirror and a witness. And later, a little bit later, while I was also deepening my mindfulness practice, I received coaching support from Dorota. And in parallel to this, I continued my therapeutic photography process that I described. And so I began to see that through photography, I could see myself and my emotions and my internal states a little bit from a distance, but not a cold distance, but a very compassionate one. And later, when I began reviewing these photographs, I noticed something else on top of that, that I started a dialogue that was not anymore something like dissecting my sadness, but I was just asking questions like, okay, so what was I really feeling here when I was taking this photograph? Why did I frame it this way? And so there was this shift towards curiosity. And this is really a turning point as well, because I think my relationship with grief turned into a mindful conversation. And so the next step of all of it was transformation. And if we could return, Dorota, to the previous one, the previous slide, because that's what I mean by this transformation, which was both artistic already and emotional. But I felt the sense that this raw dump needed to be processed. So I manipulated the images that carried emotional charge for me. So I began layering again, like creating double exposures and layering, combining textures. And for example, you can see handwritten notes of my father over a background of a landscape, a place that we have visited together in the mountains in Poland. And then his handwritten notes, like on of his notebook. And then underneath you can see his bathrobe, which will become interesting in a moment. I will talk to about this. So again, layering, and I think again this layering kind of mirrored my inner state of being still suspended between past and the present. And the next slide. And what became a thing for me later is that in some of the works, I placed myself in the image, not only photographing and layering, but also placing myself in the image, but as a blurred, almost ghost-like presence, like a trace among traces. So, but I was kind of like doubling with this, seeing how I fit into this whole imagery. So through this mindfulness, coaching, and photography processes, I think I was able to integrate many of my parts, a part of an artist that I allowed myself for, and the daughter, the coach, so many things. And this process of organizing this chaotic material, I think the material of grief and all the feelings, crystallized through the process into a more coherent artistic language, as I see it. And I learned to speak about my art, not just as a story of loss, but also as a story, as a process of integration. So I like saying that photography had permitted, and coaching helped me name that shift that happened, and also gave me the courage to own my creativity as a legitimate and essential part of who I really am, who I was. And so the photographic and coaching journeys combined simply gave me the courage to be vulnerable, to stay present, to listen inwardly to what remained unsaid for a time, and finally to transform and share it with the world. And so my learning at this point was, and still is, that I had been waiting for a permission from others, somehow from life, but the permission was already within me. That's something you often discover in the process of coaching. Yeah, we can forward. So the most pivotal moment for me was when I decided to cut my father's robe. That's the orange thing you can see in the pictures. And this was the last piece of clothing I had left of his. And I decided I want to turn it into a textile collage. And at first, this felt almost sacrilegious. But finally, the act became so crucial and such a turning point because I understood that this transformation wasn't distraction. It was just a continuation. So then I went on to create this tableau collage out of my mother's dollies. And I also combined it with pictures, family pictures. So not the pictures that I have taken, but a picture of me with my mother and my mother with her mother. And this way I formed this little like web-like story of women in my family. So again, a transformation of some memories. And these collages and some of the previous photographs became part of Around Closeness exhibition that has just closed in Warsaw in October that Dorota curated. And there were two other artists with me presenting this became a closing of a circle. And finally, I felt like I claimed the authorship of my story. So this was a very important thing to kind of round it up. And also, the creative path wasn't a distraction from pain. I think this is very important, but it was a path through the pain. And that's how you can transform and find something new in what is happening to you. So what role did photography play in my personal development? Well, it became a tool for my inner work, not only creative, but maybe predominantly developmental. And it helped me focus my attention on what truly matters to me, better understand my own emotions and reactions. It helped me process the experience of loss and see all of my close relationships from a new perspective, as well as the past ones, transformed ones rather. And also, it allowed me to treat the creative process as a form of self-inquiry and not just a means to produce outcomes. Maybe that's why I did not allow myself to call myself an artist before, because I was looking for an addition to just creating, and it happened here. I think also through this journey, I reconnected, as I said before, I mentioned that before, different parts of myself. And by that, I regained my voice. And I said, yes, I need to create, and that's my right. And I have a right to tell my own story. And so through photography, I came to see that personal growth doesn't have to begin with fixing myself, but simply with noticing what is already present and working with it in a mindful, honest way. So I think I'd like to sum it up as not being afraid to be curious. And that's the main takeaway from that. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be presenting here. And later, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kasia. It's a very unique project. It's not a project that happens every day. And I can add one thing that I had the privilege to be invited by Kasia to assist her at different stages of that journey. And that journey lasted a couple of years. So it was not a short process. And I'm very happy you could show and share and
Yeah, thank you, Dorota. It's right, because I forgot to mention, but the whole process was like about 10 years or more, so it was a long process. Yeah.
All right. And as this is a project that goes far beyond coaching, and it includes art and personal growth and mindfulness, and it's just a very unique, one-of-a-kind project. I think it's a great moment to invite a next person, Wendy Ann Smith, an excellent expert professional in the coaching field mostly, and to invite Wendy Ann to comment actually on various ethical edges of using art in coaching and other fields. One introductory sentence about you, Wendy Ann. So Wendy Ann Smith is a coaching psychologist. She founded the Coaching Ethics Forum. Those of you who are coaches, I strongly recommend to read more about it. So the Coaching Ethics Forum. She's also the co-author of book publications on ethics in coaching, and the editor of the Changemakers and Podcasters in Conversation. It's a series of podcasts that explores the lived experiences of professional life through the lens of courage and ethics. So Anne is an expert and passionate of ethics. Welcome, Wendy Ann. I'm glad that you accepted the invitation. And we decided that it's going to be kind of an interview, a talk between two of us, but actually it's mostly to you, Wendy Ann, to comment and to share your reflections on these ethical edges. So when we use art-based tools, techniques, when photos come into the game, let's talk about it in terms of what we need to be mindful and careful about. And you entitled your part as exploring ethical edges, and I'm really curious to know more. What do you mean by these edges, ethical edges? So maybe let's start from here. What do you mean by ethical edges, and how do you think which ones are most alive in this space?
Thank you, Dorota. I have to say, you know, some of you may know that some of these sessions were pre-recorded just in case something went wrong with the tech work. And I really don't know what I'm going to say today that would be different, but I have a feeling things will be different. And I'm wondering if we need to send out both recordings. So we'll see how this one lands. Because when I'm thinking about edges, my mind keeps changing about where I want to speak to, because it could land anywhere. It could land just in dilemmas that we have generally, or it could land across the different domains that we might work in. And so they all create these edges that we can be sitting on and have to be thinking about and making decisions about. Who here is a coach, identifies primarily as a coach, and who here identifies primarily as a therapist? And otherwise, what do we have? Practitioners, learning and professional development people? Could you write in chat? I'm happy to know who's kind of identifying in what bucket, because that's an edge that we're all sitting on, particularly if we are, see, we've got therapist and a coach. So I once upon a time was also a therapist and a coach. And so I had a particular edge that I was always sitting on. I've always leaned more in a coaching posture than a therapeutic posture, even when I was providing therapy. So that jazzed up my clients a little bit. But it puts you on the edge. You know, it's like, who are we? And how are we engaging in this particular intervention, and how are we introducing it? What are we planning on doing with that? Contracting often talks about, coaching often talks about contracting. I like to separate it. I think coaching needs to evolve a bit more in its use of language around the different ways that we work. And I think we need to be separating them and going for consent first. Let's consent to the engagement in this particular intervention, whatever intervention it is. And then let's contract about how that might shape up. And I think they're two different processes, and they're important to distinguish them. So I'm hoping that we can separate this language in coaching and see if we can really fine tune how that process shows up. Because so often that contracting, there's a lot of things that's embedded in that word within the coaching space, but I just don't think it really gives the full justice and the full nuance of what it is, particularly if we're working across different domains, as we might move between coach or therapist. And then we've got lots of questions around that how do we do that? Should we be doing that? Should that one person actually be moving across from one domain to another? And how do we know that we're moving across and switching domains? And so we need to be working with that particular edge all the time. Then we want to speak to what was I saying? You have to remind me now.
I think you know what comes to me now immediately is just how, as you started, and already we're on this age between professions, so we need to decide how we engage, if we engage, and then it will influence the way we contract, communicate, get consent, how we can maintain that clarity in us as professionals. So how a professional can maintain that clarity, with clients or with the participants when things get blurred, when there is pure practice and some art comes and emotions and unconscious things may pop up. So how to maintain that clarity, how we can ensure that?
Well, first instance, I think we need to know in ourselves, us the practitioner, that we need to just fine tune our antenna to know, to get a sense of, and just questioning ourselves, am I sitting in the right spot right now? Is this where I should be, given the agreement that we've made and given what I know about my own professional practice? So we need to have that awareness in the first instance, and from there we need to be really clear on our communication. You've mentioned a lot of the things that that we've mentioned in the recording yesterday, Dorota, is the about the way we communicate and the communication of why, what, and how, and having an understanding about, what is the best fit for the client. We might have a particular way that we envisage working with them with this particular interest in intervention, but in fact the client might be willing to work with it, but to a certain point or in a particular way. And I think we need to hear that and understand what's going on for them to want to move that and not impose our own way of being with them, because it might be different. And that's where I think the contracting comes in. It's different from the consent. It's the understanding and making explicit what is implicit, the things that we take for granted in the ways we work and what we understand about it, and making that very, very clear and explicit as we can be with the people we're working with, so they kind of know about what they're getting into. Because particularly around art, I'm a photographer myself, and I use that, and I use music to express a lot of my own emotions, just to express myself in ways that I can't always do verbally for a myriad of different reasons. And then there are other ways that I can. So I know how deep the emotions can be evoked from the use of creativity in our work. And for some people, that can make them particularly vulnerable. And if you're not working with them in an explicitly understood way, then perhaps we're not empowering them in the best way that we can, and they may feel somewhat disempowered, and we need to be continually working, whichever space we're working in, to actually empowering the people we're with. So we need to be mindful about the vulnerabilities, be attuned to what's happening for the client, ask them, because we can't just guess. We might have an understanding, but we need to know exactly what their experience is, so we know if we're pushing too much towards their edge, and we need to know that they're feeling safe and empowered in the process, so that making implicit what we understand as at a core basis of working with these materials, that we make it explicit with them, and that they know that they can halt at any time and even take it where they want, so long as it's within your professional boundaries, so as you keep yourself safe. Dorota, do you have another question you want to lean in on?
I think not actually. That's is there anything, maybe just last point, is there anything specific about contracting, getting consent, or rather contracting these creative ways of working into the work?
You know, for any of you here on this call, I'm very happy to hear from you if you feel that there is something uniquely different about contracting around the use of art than any other kind of intervention that we might want to bring in to any of our coaching, therapeutic, or training spaces. I imagine not. I can't imagine there's anything unique about art that says, wow, we have to be saying something different, because I think all interventions, no matter what they are, have the potential to make a bit wobbly some of our psychological foundations, and that's just in bringing up emotional experiences, tampering with people's identity, even if it is their own identity that they're tampering with, and we're just asking questions to facilitate it. I think all interventions are doing all these kinds of things, but it's just about different aspects of it might make some people, depending on who they are, feel more vulnerable than others. And we just need to be really mindful of that. But I don't think I'm saying anything new to anyone here on this call.
Well, I think you're making really deeply meaningful points here, Wendy Ann. And yes, it's just when I scroll down, back to the beginning of what you shared, self-awareness first. So being self-awareness of me as a professional, and then consent, and then knowing what and how, but first self-awareness, and finally presence. Now, as you said, presence with the person with who I am now. So adjusting, and there is no black and white or one size answer, but presence with the client. There will be some more answers, I think, in the panel that will start in a moment also.
I think something that's important to say, particularly around the coaching space, and maybe even around art or creativity in general. But I'd like to know, I don't know what the research says about this point, actually. So in relation to coaching, I know that a lot of people arrive at coaching, there's a high percentage of people that arrive at coaching who are actually there for a non-stigmatized way of having therapy, having some type of support. And so if we're introducing art into those populations, we need to be really mindful and have a really clear understanding about who this person is in front of us, and do they have the strength of psychological foundations to work in the way that you want to work, and is that a right fit for you as a coach or even as a therapist, etc. But thinking about art, and this is what I don't know, I don't know if there is even any research or what it might say around the attraction of certain types of people to the desire to have art or creativity as a therapeutic source. So that, those people arriving to people who are known to provide creative, artistic, photography, etc. in their way of working, and what kind of clientele, what's the numbers of the different kinds of people that arrive for that. I would love to know. What makes me say that is because I know historically in the therapeutic space, creativity and art has been used for a long time. So there probably is a load of research around that. I'm just not aware of it because I've not looked it up. But I do wonder about the coaching space, if it's attracting, what kinds of people and what numbers are attracting to the space because of the known creative or artistic element of some people's coach profiles.
I think that this art techniques or art being present in coaching is really an emerging thing and a new thing relatively. Yes, but well, Anne, thank you. A lot of things to think about. Thank you very much. And we'll see if there will be any comments or questions in the chat during the talk. You can maybe have a look and we'll answer at the end. And now I would love to move to the panel conversation. And we will continue explore these elements of contracting use of the photos in coaching, but in different contexts. So the panel will be with 4 people. And this will be Ellen Patricia, Ruth Davy, Bridget Austin, and Nikki Toroda. Ellen Patricia, shortly about everyone. Ellen Patricia is an ICF PCC coach. She's also a consultant, founder of the Buzur Emas Foundation. And she is specialized in helping high-performing women based in Indonesia. Ruth Davy is a psychologist and founder and co-director of The Look Again, which most of you might know, because she developed the mindful photography method based on the research. Bridget Austin, also from UK, certified 7C level coach and HR manager. And Bridget is devoted to supporting people in their emotional and life challenges, using a combination of mindfulness techniques, coaching, and personal photography. And by the way, she created also and runs an online community called Bridget's Book Club. And Nikki Toroda, who is an ICF PCC coach, founder of the Diamond's Mind. And Nikki specializes in team coaching, using coaching, journaling, and photos for more than 20 years now. So during this panel, I welcome you, coaches and psychologists. You will speak from different contexts, from individual coaching, from individual personal development programs, from team coaching as well. And I have only one question to our panelists. I will ask that question and invite you to answer, and then let's see what will emerge from your sharings. You can then maybe comment more. And the question is obvious. So when we invite an image, a picture, a photo into our practice, what are 3 main elements of contracting and communicating the use of photos? So the 3 main elements and best practices of contracting, communicating the use of photos. Ellen, would you like to start?
Sure, would be happy to. Thank you for the opportunity. So as mentioned by Dorota, I am based in Indonesia, and a lot of my work is actually for people in my country. I run a social enterprise focuses on mental well-being, emotional well-being, and personal growth. And we do provide workshop in a big group and also personal services. So the work that we use photo is especially for a big program for a big group. So usually 50 to 60 people, they are separated into usually 10 groups. So each group will have about 5 or 6 person. So it's a group process when we use photo. And being an Asian and based in Asia, there are some specific culture contexts that we need to take into consideration. So I know that in many cultures, showing personal image can be an act of vulnerability because it's a way of being seen. But I guess in our culture, it is especially so because we are a collectivist culture. It feels safer to show picture in a collective context rather than in an individual photo just because of that culture. So when someone shows a personal photo, it is a very vulnerable act actually, and it is shown in the context of a group that does not know each other prior to the program. So creating an emotional safety is actually very paramount in our process. The facilitators are not coaches, they are just trained facilitators. So when we train them, one of the biggest thing that we often reiterate is again, creating emotional safety. So we create that by just like Wendy Ann said, making it explicit to all the participants. The facilitator needs to make it explicit to all participants that this is a reflective space. This is not a diagnostic space. This is not an analytical space. This is for us to reflect. And we want to make confidentiality a shared responsibility among the people, not just the facilitator's responsibility, but shared responsibility. So that's one of the things that we really put a priority on. And also, when we train the facilitator, we really make it a priority for them to understand their role as a witness of the meaning-making process. They're not the interpreter of the image. They're just, again, the witness of the meaning-making process. They need to ask questions with curiosity. They can share perception, but it is offered as a gift, and it is up to the participant to whether they want to receive a gift or not. So definitely they can offer a gift, but again, the decision is on the participant. So helping the facilitators know their responsibility and also making it explicit to the participant that this is the responsibility and what the facilitator will do, help us to sort of anticipate the power imbalance, because ours is also a very hierarchical culture, and facilitator, I guess in many other cultures as well, often seen as higher. And in a culture that's very hierarchical, we want to also take that into consideration, that this power imbalance hopefully can be addressed by all those things being said very explicitly. And the third element that we tried as best as we can is what we call continuous consent, meaning at the beginning, yes, the participant needs to give consent whether they want to show personal image or not, and they also need to give consent whether they want to receive comment from other group members. But when we say continuous consent, meaning, let's say 5 people in a group, 2 already give comments, and then after 2 people give comment, that person says, I don't think I want to receive any more comment. And that's it. No comment is going to be given. So that's what we call as continuous consent. Until the end, that person has the right to say when I still open to receive comment, when I don't want to receive comment anymore. So those are some key elements. Of course, there's many more, but those are the main key that we usually make it a high priority for participants to know at the very beginning. So thank you again, Dorota, for the opportunity to share, and I love to hear from the others. I think you're still muted, Dorota.
Yes, sorry. I wonder if this is a smooth move from what you just shared, Alan, from your work with groups to you, Bridget, because you also worked with individual people who are not a team, but a group of individuals who joined the program. Would you mind?
No, thank you, Dorota. Yeah, I think that would work really nicely. I'm Bridget. I'm a coach in the UK, and I trained with Dorota in photography and coaching a little while ago. And the context that Dorota is referring to there is I've used photography in a workshop format with a number of groups of individuals, ladies, who were recovering after cancer treatment. I've also used it with individuals as well in a one-to-one journey, and really echo what's being said through today in terms of informed consent being an ongoing conversation, that we may have it in our coaching contracts, our work, that our contracts that we give to people, but really it's that conversation in terms of who we are, why we're able to use photography as a coaching process, because I think that's important in terms of trust, but also what it might help with, is that something that the client might benefit from, and respecting their wishes, as has been said, and revisiting that through the process in terms of it being a continuous dialogue, never assuming that consent that was given at the beginning or in writing is still there. So really being responsive to the client or clients and how they're coming across. So it's about offering photographs that could support their journey, and certainly with the cancer patients, it was something that did support their recovery journey, and they very much embraced taking on board that process. And it was interesting, actually, some of them also started drawing as well as photographs, so it kind of unlocked other elements of creativity. So I would make sure, as part of that process and that consent, that clients in a workshop or one-to-one would understand how those photos were going to be used, if they were going to be stored in any way as part of the coaching record for a period of time, or how they might be shared so that people felt comfortable to share with others in a workshop setting. And the method that we used, again, with the cancer workshops, was a journal, which I provided them with, and they used that to capture key photos and notes and so on. And I would always check in, especially if an image brings that emotion. And we've heard about emotional images today, and sometimes, without perhaps expecting it, a client can become very emotional around an image, and certainly encountered that within a group setting. And it's making sure that you handle that gently and don't push, and also manage the other participants in the room around that as well. So respecting the client all the time, and that's central to our code of ethics as coaches, and it keeps that trust, it keeps the relationship open, collaborative. And then also within that sort of group setting especially, it was really important to set clear boundaries within the group about how we were going to use photographs that were shared or taken, to respect the psychological boundaries of the whole group. So we would agree there'd be no photographing of others without permission. I didn't photograph the individuals at those workshops. I could have asked for that as a part of my permission, but I chose not to, because I felt they were in a very sacred, vulnerable space, and I didn't want to put that decision on them. So everyone is getting to choose what they share, and also how they are shared in a photographic setting. And because the work was commissioned by a charity, they were paying me for that work, it was important that I was able to reflect back to them the benefit of the work, because obviously I wanted to continue and do more for them, because I could see the power of it. But or equally, I couldn't share the individual cases, the individual details of what was happening. So I had to be mindful to describe overall themes and outcomes rather than individual stories. I wasn't sharing individual photographs with the commissioners in any way. At all times, those photographs belonged to those ladies. They were in their journals and they chose what they put in there and how they shared that. And we'd revisit that confidentiality regularly because it's a sacred space, and what was shared was very deep, very personal. And I was having to be mindful of my edges that Anne was talking about in terms of coaching versus therapy, because it was a therapeutic process, not therapy, that we were in. So all the time trying to maintain that trust and ensuring that the clients stay in control of those images and their stories, because they were deeply personal stories. And the voice of the client, like's already been said, is their voice. So it wasn't for me to interpret their photographs or for anybody else in a workshop setting to interpret those photographs. It's to work with the meaning that is brought. And in that context, we were reconnecting with themselves and the world around them with others. So it was predominantly joyful feelings, mindful feelings, feeling back in nature, etc. But it was for the client to illustrate that. I would never use a photo outside of the session. I would ask for consent for that. So when I was in the first symposium with Dorota, and she kindly asked me to share their journeys, I asked for that permission from the clients. They sent me their photos. I kept it for that period of time for the symposium, and then I have no, then I took that out of my my database, my records, and so on. So it's also important not to edit or alter those clients' pictures. So they were given and shared in the spirit of learning as they'd taken them, and so on. So yeah, really, really important. The photograph is a voice in the room. It's their voice. And we need to hold it in the same care as coaches as we would do when people are sharing their words with us.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, Dorota.
Thank you, Bridget. So I now think to make a shift and invite you, Nikki. Bridget introduced again this topic of ethics, of trust and clarity. So maybe you can take this further with team coaching. So Nikki, I also owe you at least one sentence of introducing you. So Nikki is going to talk about in the context of team coaching, as you are the mostly specialized in team coaching as the ICF PCC coach. So working with sponsors, companies, and participants, teams. Nikki, what's your view on your practice?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dorota. It's great to be here. So as you just said, it's around team coaching, and I'm introducing two creative tools, which is photos and journaling into a team coaching engagement. I'm not a photographer, and when I say photos, I don't mean the team members taking photographs, personal photographs of themselves, for example. So the way I'm using the photos is as a catalyst for deeper introspection of the team for a team goal. So you asked us about our ethical practice. So firstly, it is about consent, as Wendy Ann said, in terms of the big C. I call it the big C, which is the contracting conversation that I have with the sponsor, which in this case is the business that are commissioning me as an external coach to come in and run a series of coaching sessions with the team. That can be an intact team. It could be a cross-functional team, for example. It could be a team of teams, so like the heads of departments and things like that. So let me just explain. The photos is a step into the journaling. So I always offer like a choice of photos for people to already have that sense of agency and autonomy. So never just one particular photo. But in the pre-meeting with the sponsor, I find out the business objectives. What do they want, or what do they hope the coaching can help with their business objectives? So, for example, it could be team well-being, it could be team realignment, it could be around just engagement and motivation of the team. So in that meeting, I'm providing a brief about, and they may have come to me, there's a lot to say, but they may have come to me because they've seen, I think Wendy Ann touched on this, like who is attracted to coaches with, let's say, other tools in their toolbox and creative tools. So often it comes, you know, because they've seen the tools that I have, or a referral from an individual client, and then, you know, getting in contact with me. So in terms of the brief, I'm explaining how I'm using the photos and journaling as an integral part of a coaching conversation. And actually, the ICF definition of coaching is a thought-provoking and creative process to maximize an individual's potential. So I think in that sense, photos and journaling together really hit those elements. So in that initial conversation, I'm also sharing evidence. There is a growing body of evidence around the use of art. For me, it's just photos that I'm using, everyday kind of photos of nature, objects, things like this, rather than people, for example. So I share links about neuroarts or neuroaesthetic research that shows what looking at an image can do. And in my case, as I mentioned, it's about that deeper introspection. It's that kind of subconscious speaking and unlocking, you know, what is the challenge that we as a team are facing through the lens of using a photo. And also there is a growing evidence base about the use of journaling for deeper introspection, for emotional regulation, and I will share those links as well. Also in that conversation, so we're going from consent, yes, understanding fully, being explicit, being transparent, you know, what are the methods that I'm using and why am I using them? Because as I said, it can unlock voice, it can build empathy, you know, so if there's the coaching request around team realignment, that can really help. I think from an individual level, just working with photos, it feels quite an accessible way in to surface, you know, a challenge that the team is facing. So it gives language, I think, in you know, through image, through metaphor, it can help clarify what is it that we want to work on, and that's the purpose of bringing them in. In terms of, I think it was Wendy Ann that said, you know, is there anything special about contracting with the use of, well, in my case, image and journaling? Not especially. I mean, apart from just making sure that everyone is clear that these tools will be used, that they're not used as a warm-up. I'm not there as a facilitator. I'm not forcing anything. The way that we use, I'm speaking very fast, sorry. The way that we use photos is for them to resonate. So I'm not even, it's not like an assignment that I give them a question and then they choose a photo. It really is to, as we might start any individual coaching session, you know, what's top of mind? What is it that you want to bring to coaching today? So rather than a dialogic process, it's readying. It really speaks to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it helps. We all process information in different ways. So it helps each team member to ready their voice for the coaching conversation. So choosing a photo quietly, then answering some of the journaling questions that I have, again, individually, quietly. So this is readying, as I said, the ground, because often if in a, let's say, without these tools in a team coaching setup, usually the first person who speaks, it's kind of framing the way the conversation is going. And as we know in group settings, there could be groupthink or dominant voices. And obviously as a coach, we're helping people take turns. But this quiet preparation before the coaching request as a group is then formed as a team. Probably going off track. But, so data sharing, yes, that's right. With the sponsor, I'm clarifying that I'm not sharing, I'm upholding confidentiality of what is spoken about in the sessions, but any themes, a bit like what Bridget just said, themes I can report back on, because this is a team coaching conversation. I also provide the sponsor, the business, with a brief to give to the team members before they come to their first coaching session, so that they are not surprised, that they feel also readied for the use of these tools. So, yep. Oops, sorry. So,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was just going to say about the little C, which is every coaching session. Again, at the very beginning, being clear, being transparent with the team members themselves. You know, this is how we're going to start our coaching conversation today. So, as I mentioned, picking from photos that I've brought along, giving some journaling prompts. So they're just having like a very short moment in time, picking a picture, writing 3 words that might describe that picture. My next prompt would be thinking of your team and how you're working over the last week or so. How might this picture connect? And I often give them what I call a jump-in line, so something that is just to note down by pen. By the way, research shows that you can connect deeper and quicker to your thoughts. So this is writing as thinking. It's not writing an essay and the way that we normally write, which is having in mind what we're going to write. So it's expressive writing, margin to margin, thoughts just cohering on the page, basically. So have a nice, well, not nice, a jump in line, which is around just something that might be on the tip of your tongue. What if I were to tell you? And then using the picture, using the words, and thinking, this is all in a container of the professional lens, you know, your team, what's the challenge here? What would you like to speak about? And so,
Nikki,
yeah.
let's summarize.
Okay, summarize.
like a final sentence,
Okay.
just to make sure that you said everything you wanted.
Have I? I said too much.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Sorry, I could talk a lot. So the key thing here is it's anonymous. Yes, I'm not asking them in case people think that I'm asking people to share their journaling. Not at all. That's for their eyes only. It's the readying. What is it I want to say in our team coaching today? And then so they're anonymously. So if I do it online, I might use a poll, for example, and the keywords will come up. And then together they, as a group, they come to a consensus around, you know, what is the coaching request. If it was in person, then people will put those words on little index cards or post-it notes, and I would read, and then the formulation of the coaching request would begin. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nikki. And as you can see, Nikki uses these ways of working in team setting, which is a very special look how different it is from what Ellen shared in this Eastern culture about vulnerability, and then Bridget with the individual clients. Here we have a team dynamics and that anonymosity and this special care for splitting, I understand, between what I'm processing myself, deepening my understanding, and then when I'm then sharing publicly. They are 2 different things. So thank you, Nikki. And I think it's a great moment to invite you, Ruth, now, Ruth Davey, who has been developing mindful photography with great success immensely in the last years. And you have a very special field and practice in the, I don't know, in the context is that there are no underlying codes of ethics or sponsors, so it's a completely different setting. So how do you do that, Ruth? How do you organize this work to ensure professionalism?
Thank you so much, Dorota, for inviting me to come this year, and it's a real pleasure to be here. And Yeah, the whole field of mindful photography is still very young. It's still very much in its infancy, in a more formal sense. That definitely in this more kind of professional kind of setting. For us at Look Again, we see mindful photography as both a creative and very much a reflective practice. So within the field of photography, it's an element or a form of therapeutic photography. It also fits nicely within the mindfulness world, but it's not mindfulness in itself. So we're really bringing in mindfulness or elements of mindfulness together with aspects of therapeutic photography to actually create something that is quite new. And there is no formal accreditation for mindful photography anywhere, as far as I know. So anything that I'm sharing is just as far as I know. So if anyone knows any different, please do let me know, because it's really important. So there are no code of ethics as such either. So what our practice, or the way that we deliver mindful photography, is about, it's about being guided by other mindfulness principles and shared values with the mindfulness world, and other principles within the therapeutic photography world generally, but also my own experience of 35 years of working in community development of one sort or another. So bringing in also lived experience as well as professional expertise into the bigger picture. So for us at Look Again, the idea really is, in essence, the idea that if we see differently, we can feel differently, we can be differently. And if we see and be differently, we can then actually make some intentional choices to do differently, so to take action in different ways. And the idea that by doing the inner change that we need to do and focusing on our sight as part of that process, that then leads to outer change. So we work in lots of different settings. Most of the work we do is group work. We work in communities, we work in organisations, and we also deliver training in different contexts as well. So in terms of contracting, even within a group setting, we will contract with individuals within that group, but we'll also be contracting with the business that we're working with the community, the organisation that we're working with, whatever kind of organisation that might be. But we'd also be contracting with other stakeholders, for example, funders. All participants will complete a wellbeing questionnaire and also fill out, we invite them. We don't force people, but we invite a statement of intent, so that we invite a sense of why are you here? You know, what's drawing you to this process? And we then co-create together as a group agreements around confidentiality, around offering what we're doing together within a spirit of trust and respect and compassion. So as facilitators, because that's how I see my role, is more as a facilitator rather than one as coach, I aim to model mindfulness and a mindful approach to delivery. So we use pauses. We use moments of stillness. We use reflective dialogue. And we intend to move, or we try our best to use compassionate communication. And we invite everyone involved in the process to act in those ways, or to learn. It's part of the really important part of the process, goes way beyond the actual photography itself. And as facilitators in this particular approach, it's really about valuing our authenticity, and also bringing in a sense of authority and friendship and stewardship. So we're there as guides, we're not there as teachers as such. We're there to offer something that people can then really consider in their own way, in ways that have become accessible to themselves and to their communities. So if, for example, we're doing some training, I will invite people literally, how does this apply to you as an individual? But really importantly, how can this then be adapted in accessible, inclusive ways and in ways that are appropriate to your geographical location, your culture, your religious or spiritual setting, whatever it might be. So, and that is a really, really important part of the way that we work with people. We also bring in our own values, which as an organisation are incredibly important to us. And those values are simplicity, integrity, courage, and we bring in aspects of regenerative practice. So the idea here is that this isn't about the individual at the end of the day, even though it might be initially as individual for individual benefit, but this is very much about how we can give back, not just as individuals, but collectively, and not just for humans, but also for the more than human world. So we're looking at literally from the individual all the way up to the global and the planetary. So in terms of ensuring safety and inclusion within these contexts, we invite participants to disclose any well-being or mental health related challenges or concerns that they might have before we actually start the process. And then if there are concerns that actually need addressing and we feel it's not appropriate for people to take part in whatever it is we're offering, then we aim to support those people in whatever way is appropriate. And if we're working in partnership with other organisations, often there will be support available within that organisation, but we might also need to get involved in signposting as well to other appropriate organisations and support. We do our best to work within using a trauma-informed approach to the work. So we're ensuring that sessions and training are sensitive, that we are offering it within a spirit of being sensitive, inclusive, accessible, and that in ways that are appropriate to different people's needs and contexts. In terms of the use of photographs themselves and the use of photographs as a practice. So mindful photography, the photograph itself is not the goal, it's simply a doorway. There's no right or wrong photograph, there's no judgment, there's no recipe to follow. Instead, we invite a creative conversation with the image, if that is actually welcomed by the participant who's created the image. So often it's like, I can't remember who was saying this a minute ago, but it's I think it was Ellen. We constantly go back to the consent of actually, do you welcome comment on this image, or not? And in fact, largely we're in our reflective process, whether it's in person or online, because we do it both ways, we have spaces for people to leave their reflections specifically with no comment. Because the last thing we want here is for people to think, oh, that they've received loads of comments and I haven't. But also it's about, we don't want this to feel like another bit of social media, and it's also about being really careful because people can so easily project their thoughts, their feelings, their experiences onto someone else's image and onto someone else's sharing. So within all of this, we offer and we engage, we offer a practice and we engage in a process in ways that really do reflect on the attitudinal foundations of mindfulness. So we do this with curiosity. We do it with gratitude, within a spirit of compassion, and really importantly, trust and acceptance, and the idea of letting go and non-striving. And it's really, really, really important that photographs are shared as safely as they possibly can be in our community spaces, whether that's in person or online, or through our secure training platform, for example, but always with care and respect for the individual and the collective group. I think I'll leave it there, Dorota.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just so many thoughts now also going through my mind, you know, about that our work is basically we are in relationship with people, and these relationships are to make the good for the others. So it requires a lot of self-awareness and self-awareness in the relationships, and this very mindful facilitation, sensible, and you've just made a great loop with Ellen, actually. Yeah, there is how I feel hope from that. So we need to be mindful about ethics, about relationships, about safety, about we need to care. But at the same time, there is a lot of hope in that. I hope you, I'm just summarizing shortly summarized each of you, because this can then also serve others to either take notes or you to complete what I forgot. So, you know, it's just a working, these are working notes in the chat. Fantastic. Talking about hope, I would like now to change a little bit the scene and invite Mandy Zellingman on the scene with the presentation that will take us from the considerations on ethical practice or on ethics or on mindfulness in our relationships to creating possibilities and to discovering possibilities. So Mandy Zellingman is a psychologist and an award-winning black and white photographer as well. But here, first of all, I think the founder of Seeing Happy organization, a non-profit organization that is that probably most of you know as well, dedicated to fostering well-being and inspiring positively through the power of photography. So we will be now purely in photography, but also in photography as an action to raise hope and discovery, beauty, etc. So Mandy, welcome again. I will, sure, I need to open your slides. Oh, they are open, so let me just simply share them. I'm so in listening also that not always remember what is my next step. Voila. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Just putting on my timer so I don't go too long. Thank you, Dorota. It's really great to be here again. And it's so interesting to see how this endeavor has expanded from the first one that you held, what was it, 3 years ago? So interesting. It's going in so many interesting ways.
Yes.
And I always feel a little disconnected because I'm not a coach or a therapist. And, you know, it's become very clear to us that we, at, you know, Seeing Happy, we very much need to stay in our lane. You know, when you talk about consent and ethics, I think that we've really thought a great deal about how we work and who we work with and how we align ourselves so that we stay exactly very close to our mission, which I'll talk about. And we stay in our lane in the sense that we work with people, with coaches, with therapists, but we don't encroach on their work. We stay very much, we're a non-profit, and actually that's a very important thing. You know, we invite people to join us. We invite people to work with us. When people give their photographs rather, we make it completely clear that we use their photographs with their permission for our, to inspire other people, but they keep the copyright. We don't make any money from what they give us. And that we have a very, very, very narrow mission. But I kind of feel that the narrowness is what is powerful, because people are invited in and accepted. I mean, as Ruth was saying, it's a very encompassing, everybody is invited in, as long as it aligns with our mission. So it might be very narrow, but I feel that that is what's powerful about what we're doing right now. So let me talk to you a little tiny bit about Seeing Happy. So for those of you who don't know about it, it was I've been a photographer many years, and I have been a psychologist probably the same amount of years. And when the pandemic hit, I put the two together. But I also wanted to say that I've talked about this before. Kasia's presentation was very moving to me, because I think that actually the power of the photography and the reason that it came together for me was also a personal journey through grief. And that was finding my way through grief when my father passed away. And it was a long process. And the beauty in the photography was that it starts out, it's not threatening. It's a very simple way in. It's a non-threatening way to start looking at emotions. And so I keep on talking about Seeing Happy as a catalyst. And really for me, the photography was a catalyst. It just started me down a path that I could then look back on. And I don't think I understood the power of it until I sort of got towards the end and could look back and see where it had taken me. So for me, it was very much a personal transformation, as Kasia was saying. And it started with a very simple idea in my own head that was just I needed to do something to take my mind off the grief. But then it led me to this place that was much transformed. The grief was lessened, and I could then turn to something else. And Seeing Happy is something, like I said, it's not about coaching, and it's not about therapy. It's very much at that moment, the horse has come to the trough, and it's like, do you want to take this next step or not? And nobody's saying, this you should, or you could, or it would be good for you. It's an opportunity. So Seeing Happy is this global platform for finding beauty, and thereby inspiring other people, sharing it, making connections, seeing possibilities, finding hope. It started very much as an individual kind of endeavor. So, and actually, if you look on the website, it's still the happy feed is very much about the individual giving photographs. But we're moving in a week or so. I think you will find that we will have a community happy feed, and I'm going to talk a lot about that. But let me just go back and say, why do we concentrate on beauty? Well, there is a researcher at the University of Pennsylvania called Jed Clifton, who talks a great deal about our basic beliefs. And one of the basic beliefs is whether the world is a beautiful place, whether it's safe, whether you can trust other people. And actually, can we go back, Dorota? I don't want to get into this one just yet. So Jed talks a great deal about the importance of finding beauty in the world, seeing beauty. and how actually he talks about, you know, one of the biggest things that we can do for our children is to teach them that the world is a good place and it's beautiful. And yes, we have to be careful and there are boundaries, but teaching them to trust in the world is a much better legacy than to teach them about all of the things that can go wrong. It increases positivity, but it also decreases anxiety and depression. So beauty, finding beauty in the world is one way towards higher well-being. And why photography? Well, I think we all know why photography. Like photography it's an easy way to start. Focusing on what's beautiful, focusing on what's right, focusing on what we're grateful for. You know, it's not a heavy ask. And not only is it not heavy, but the hope is that when we start looking for beauty, when we start looking for gratitude, it focuses our attention on that. And then maybe we start to find more of it. And then, of course, you know, we can talk about the mindfulness and flow that Ruth talks about. It's an escape as well. So you go for a walk and you look at what's beautiful. You're giving your head some space to see these things, to concentrate on what's right, and to maybe divert your attention away from the negativity and the issues that we have. So part of the mission is to focus on the positive in order to maybe have some more creativity and possibilities in order to better deal with what we do have to deal with. So it's kind of it's not like a Pollyanna-ish, oh, you know, everything's great. It's more, let's see what's right. Let's focus on what's right. And let's build on that. And let's use that to help us decide how to deal with the issues that we actually have to deal with. So that was the kind of beginning of Seeing Happy. But at the same time, there was always this idea that we wanted it to be a shared endeavor. One of the big criticisms, I think, about the positive psychology movement that my husband started, I don't know, 30 years ago, was that it's very much an individual endeavor. And we know that people really do better when they're in a community. Right from the beginning, there were very loud voices, particularly from England and Europe, that criticized the individuality that was being promoted. And I think we've kind of come full circle. So now we're finding more and more ways to use individual flourishing, but within a community. We know that the best thing for our own well-being and flourishing are good relationships, you know, good quality relationships. By the way, I do want to say one little thing about that. Robert Diener just pointed out a beautiful paper. I think it's actually in the Positive Psychology Journal that talks about, you know, we talk about quality relationships, but we don't really dissect what that is. So what are quality relationships and how are they different? You know, what do you need from a spouse versus a child, from a parent, from a co-worker, from a friend? You know, what do you need in the community? So part of the conversation that I want to have about communities and photography is when we start bringing pieces together, maybe this is a way where we start seeing different perspectives and we start sharing our own perspective and we start being able to see more of the whole picture, literally, than just, you know, one perspective, one aspect. So we really tried to start a community. You know, at the very beginning, we had, you know, create a shared piece of art. Well, that was kind of a nice idea, but we were always struggling with how do we build a community? And we didn't really want to do it through, you know, a sort of Instagram kind of thing with likes and stuff, because we didn't want that kind of competitiveness, or, we didn't want anything that could be negative. We wanted something that was encompassing, that was inclusive, that was celebratory. And, interestingly, we had no idea how to do it. So we just started with like little, what we called showcases. We would have a call out for, and actually this is why we were in Brisbane. The International Positive Psychology Association asked us to do a call out for photographs on renewal, which was the theme of their conference. And so we had a call out. We had maybe 1,000 photographs. We had an exhibition, and then we started having more conversations about giving call outs, about having exhibitions, having community showcases. And this has become a place now where it's not just, it's the individual, but it's the individual within the community. And it seems to me that what we're beginning to build are community showcases that increase belonging, that lessen loneliness, that get people to be able to be seen, and to see other perspectives. And I just want to show you some of the work that we've been doing. So this is one that we have been doing in Cape Town. We just had a showcase. Thank you, Dorota, for stopping the video. This was actually started after the Brisbane exhibition. We were approached by Cape Town University to do a legacy project with the students, the first-year students. Now, these are first-year students. We know first-year students, they go through a whole lot of different psychological transformations, I guess, but also there's a lot of stress, imposter syndrome, so much first time away from home. And so we had a legacy project that was, this is me. Who am I? Why am I here? How do I belong? And it turned into the most beautiful project. And again, we asked people, we actually brought people in to talk to the students and ask them about how did they enjoy the project? What did they like about Seeing Happy? What was the most important part of sharing their photographs? And remember, this started out as an individual thing, like take a photograph, talk about who you are, where you come from, what, where you were going. But not only that, but it also, as Ruth was saying, this is a moment in time. They're on the cusp of something new, but where are you now? How did you get here? And taking that moment, that mindfully taking a moment to see where you are now and what's right now before you move on. So it was a mindful individual moment, but then it was shared, and it's turned out that the feedback we got was that the sharing and the feeling of being in this group of people that were also sharing, this was a really powerful part of what we were doing. Feeling like they belonged, feeling like their contribution mattered, feeling like they were supported by other people. This turned out to be a really, sorry, my time has just gone off. Sorry, I haven't gone through a lot of stuff here. But this turned out to be a really important part of what we were providing. So that was in South Africa. Can we go to the next one, please? Oh, this was the exhibition that we took to Brisbane. And at the end of the Brisbane exhibition, first of all, it was a beautiful exhibition that they put on. So they sent me the photographs to the University of Pennsylvania, and Penn put on an exhibition here in the Annenberg Plaza. And we started thinking, how can we extend this? We started thinking about people in the programs at Penn. How can we extend what's happening how can we keep this going, keep the conversation going? Well, one person had a wonderful idea of using postcards. How can we use postcards to expand, and you can see that the postcards here. We had the MAP program, the Masters in Applied Positive Psychology at Penn. It was the 20th anniversary of the founding of the program. So people talked about what the program had meant to them, what it meant to the people in their lives, how it was part of their journey of transformation. And we created postcards of the photographs they took and their reflections, so that we could share it more with each other. The exhibition is still up at Penn and will stay there for another couple of months. The postcards have become very popular, but it's all a matter of spreading the word, rippling the effect, so that it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger in a non-directive way. Everybody's just invited in, and the idea being that we are including more and more ways that people can build communities and can use communities of art, music, anything that is, I guess, in the humanities part, so that people can find their own way of expressing themselves, connecting with other people, finding opportunities within their own communities, whether they're physical communities or online communities, professional communities. Can we have the next slide, please, Dorota?
Yes, and we will be somehow finding ways, Mandy, to close.
Oh, yes,
Oops.
Toronto. This is Thursday. We can go to the next one if you'd like. Next week rather. I'm going to Toronto because we have a showcase in Toronto, which is really a community-based. What do we like? Well, it's Toronto through our eyes. So this is really where we're at. It's both an individual kind of seeing ourselves clearly and working through arts, but then using that as a way to connect to other people within our communities. So stay posted. We have a lot of new things coming up, which will be going on the site. But I guess I want to end it, and I apologize, Dorota, for going over time. I want to end it by saying that I think that the coaching, the therapy, these are all pieces that are building more and more. And what we want to do is we want to build it out so that it's a part of a community-based growth mindset, I guess, of what can we be doing with those pieces within the community to build resilience, to build well-being, and to decrease loneliness in our people. So thank you, Dorota.
Thank you, Mandy. I love how you took us to this broad perspective of us being part of communities and those who build communities and part of the world, actually. Thank you, Mandy. And our last guest will be Judy Weiser. It just all happens, magically, how things move from one presentation to another, because actually, Judy Weiser will have a very special speech about building communities. So, Judy, I have pre-recorded the interview with Judy, which I will soon show you because of some technical issues. Reparation works in her region. She won't be able to join us today. So we pre-recorded the interview, and just a few words about Judy and the interview. So Judy is the founder of the phototherapy techniques and Vancouver Center, And she's really one of the early pioneers in phototherapy techniques that then inspired all other fields, also the use of photographs in coaching and well, whatever. And Judy explored the use of photos in her professional practice as a therapist already in the 60s of the 20th century. So she really kept developing and building her expertise and the authority and the esteem, along with the digitalization, the globalization, the professionalization. And I just kindly ask her, this year to share with us what is the secret of such a sustainable professional growth. So it's not going to be about tools and techniques, of course. Let me open the file with Judy, and I tested sharing the video, so I hope that it's going to work well. I lost you. Where I am? Where do I am? Moment. Just a second. I hope you will be able to hear our conversation. First of all, I want to say hello, Julie, for this interview. The third symposium on focus in coaching and personal growth. It's my honor to host you here. Very happy. Oh, yeah. My question. So, relate sustainable professional and personal growth to ethics, values, which is the main theme of the symposium. But before I ask you the first question, I want to say everyone that Judy is a world-known expert and one of the early pioneers in phototherapy techniques. And besides our professional relationship, that lasts already for many years, actually, we became personal friends with Judy as well. I wanted to say that and to welcome you at the symposium. Maybe you want to say just a few words about you before we start, and then I ask you the first question.
Okay, my first two words are thank you. You've asked me to be part of the symposium 3 years in a row now, and I feel like I know some of the other presenters I do know, but I feel like I'm getting to know your whole network these days. I wanted to thank you and explain that very briefly, phototherapy techniques are techniques that trained mental health professionals use to help people improve their lives. Coaches are right in there, and that what coaches will be doing to integrate the use of photos, photo taking, and photo discussing comes from phototherapy techniques and bridges over into the other topic of therapeutic photography, which I named in 2008. And so when I talk here about a professional life, it's for all of us that are presenting and attending. So just to make sure that's clear, and thank you again.
Good. So, the first question I wanted to ask you, and this is what I wanted to start with before we talk about ethics, is about sustainable personal life and professional. So you've been on the market so many years, and so much has changed from analog to digital to AI now. It is changing, the other forms still exist. The community of professionals has grown so immensely. But I think you're the only one who has been from the beginning, let's say, so for so many years. So what helped you to grow in a sustainable way for so many years?
I think the beginning of my answer is follow your instincts, follow your hunches, be true to your own path, because you have no idea in advance where it's leading you to. If I had known back when I started doing this work that it would lead to this, I would have laughed at you if you'd said that. I had no idea where I was going. I just knew that I'm using photos to help, at this point, children in foster care be able to improve their mental health, their emotional health. I had no idea where it was going. You only see your path later in retrospect, when you look back and try to figure out, how did I get here? My entire career wouldn't have happened at all if I hadn't seen a very small 3-line little column in a 1978 Psychology Today magazine that I had never read before, but I spontaneously bought for the first time in a bookstore one day. Happened to read the pages toward the end where people made announcements about upcoming events, and I saw something like, if you're using photos to help people, you might want to attend this conference in Chicago next year. And until that moment, I thought I myself had invented these techniques and also gave them their name, because my first published article was in 1975, 50 years ago.
That's unbelievable. The first date you mentioned was 1971, 1975. Yeah, I mean, we always, we are not in the vacuum. And I very much can echo what you said in the beginning, that follow your instincts.
This sort of leads me to my next part of the answer. I followed my hunch and flew there, and I met dozens of other people from 3 countries, all of whom thought they were the first to name and invent these techniques. The nice part of this meeting, and this is so important for a sustainable professional life, is that instead of being territorial about who did what first, we all instead enjoyed the synchronicity of all of us being part of an idea whose time had arrived. And if it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. My point here is that all of us, all of you who are hearing this, follow up on everything that interests you. Follow those hunches. And also, out of what I just said above, or earlier, encourage others. Don't see them as competition. They may be part of your future supportive network. If you and they are doing the same thing, it's fine. Doesn't matter who did it first. I've always welcomed learning about newcomers to the field rather than seeing them as potential competitors. Making, as you well know, making the conscious choice to continue to help mentor and guide people so they can benefit from what I've already learned, what's in the hard drive up here, and move on easier into their own specializations, but making it clear that I expect them to do the same for others later on, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So I've nurtured phototherapy since the mid-70s, before computers, before internet, before a lot of you seeing me today were born. And I've always welcomed the accidental connections, because my attitude has been that we're a family that's always growing and benefits not only to those we help, but we benefit from our own connections with others doing similar work. And then finally, of course, your topic today being ethics. I have always wanted to be extremely sure that my ethics are clean, known to others to be this way, so that I've always been able to sleep easily at night. I can't say this strongly enough. How? Well, although I think I seem over controlling when protecting my intellectual property rights. Well, I see this as being as careful as possible. Excuse me. And so, although I'm quite willing to give people permission to reuse my stuff, my writing, my teaching photos, I'm fine as long as they're properly credited. But you have to have a written agreement, like the phrase in the United States of good fences make good neighbors. You know, where your boundaries are and you both agree, then it's fine to go back and forth. The agreement has to be in writing, because verbal agreements that aren't witnessed by another person, or alternatively, what we can do now during a video chat before it begins, saying we know it's being recorded and my name is this and the date is that. Things that are not done those ways are not legally binding if it comes down to a serious crisis or a challenge in your professional ethics. This isn't being excessive. This is mandatory for legal protection of both parties involved in a situation. So, because I so willingly share my knowledge for free or doing professional consulting for money, when I have discovered somebody reusing my intellectual property without giving me proper credit, I can become a ferocious bitch. Whoops. All right, bitch. Often with a lawyer involved, just to protect my rights. And then by envisioning all the possible worst case scenarios that most people think I overdo. But I try to imagine what might happen if I always over trusted people to do the right thing, thinking that they would. And then what if they don't? And so I word my contracts very carefully and very comprehensively. My husband's nickname for me is Judy, just in case. I like it. And I did write a little note to make sure here to mention, I would very much like to say what my friend Dorota once wrote to me about this topic. At all times, communicating in ways that make our interactions transparent and professional in terms of boundaries and new possibilities. And yes, you wrote that, and yes, I loved it. So I've always tried to be as ethical as possible and help others do this by making them realize that their biggest problem sometimes is just very simply, they didn't know that they didn't know, and they should have if they're trained professionally in ethical codes. If they don't know about the ethical considerations they needed to always keep in the front of their mind, they haven't finished learning and being trained, because not knowing is never sufficient excuse. So, I don't know, in summary, I guess this adds up to me just always being open to newer changes over the year that I always had to keep adjusted to, none of which I could have expected in 1975, that people could record their own videos on their phone and there would be digital technology and there will be an internet. I mean, none of this was even in my mind to consider being possible. So you have to be open to newer changes or you stop growing. I always had to keep adjusting going forward so I could stay current with updated concepts, new theories, new teaching, new technology, welcoming the inputs they can bring me rather than feeling threatened by having to keep learning on and on, or getting stuck in older, more comfortable ways that might be outdated now, but I'm tired of having to learn new things. That doesn't work. I mean, Dorota, how many other 80-year-old people do you know who are tech fluent enough?
Well, not many. That's why,
I do coding on their own website. I run a Facebook group that has, over 10,000 individually approved members. I can maneuver through, virtual meetings, like, technologies like FaceTime and Messenger and WhatsApp and Zoom. Folks, you cannot afford to not keep up with new develops and theories and technology. You can't risk not keeping updated. So that, it's a long answer to your question, and I'm happy to hear more, but those are the topics, the 3 topics I wanted to make sure I covered. And I know we only have 15 minutes, so I'll let you take it from here.
The image I have now from what you said is just me with my intuition following what I want to do and what I feel is right. And connecting with other people, building the community, contributing to the community, so the network around me. And the ethics that are actually, the ethics is what is in between us. This is the connection. So me and other people what regulates, what is the dynamic between us is very much about the ethics in many, many senses. We could talk a lot and spend the whole day.
We often do.
I'm, aware of time. We will need to finish. Thank you very much for this, chance to listen to you. You are a true mentor and true expert. And I think that this strong message on how to grow in life.
Yeah. I'm gonna interrupt you because something just came to my mind, like it always does when we don't rehearse these things. I thought of something while you were saying that about ethics, and I realized that it's automatically connected in my mind, and I'm certain also in yours, is the word respect.
Absolutely. This is respect is something it's a human right, actually.
Yeah. And so, my main message to people who ask, 50 years ago, no, I didn't know where I was going. I had no idea. I was doing what I loved doing. And so what I would say is my message to the people listening to or watching today, do what you love doing. Encourage yourself to be continually curious and, welcome every possible opportunity to share your work with other people, as long as you make sure the ethical boundaries are clearly defined between you, because you never know where these accidental crossing of paths will lead you. So that's particularly what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Judy. Well, I need to finish. I would love to continue, but I have to stop our conversation because, the time is flying. So thank you very much. And if we had a chance to continue that conversation, maybe next year, maybe in the future, who knows? Thank you, Judy.
And who knows? And like I said, I'm not retired yet. I have no idea how I got this old this fast. So, if I can do it, other people can do it.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. I hope you didn't mind. I hope you liked Judy's spontaneous sharing, and you can see Judy's been supporting me as well on my journey for so many years. I think she was the first one to, as she shared in this interview, seeing other people doing things that make sense and supporting them. So I always wanted her to share from her perspective. I didn't know what she would share actually, and I was myself surprised. But again, wrapping up everything we've said and heard today, I have a strong feeling it's about humanity, being human, being our true selves among other people. And yes, as Mandy, you mentioned in the beginning, how this symposium has been evolving through these last years. Yes, clearly switch from a pure focus on tools and techniques to more balanced conversation, dialogue, and reflection on who we are and how we can meet and think together, reflect together, have that time together, even if only listening, but still it's never only listening. Just having the time together in the context of a professional practice and community, and to devote few time, like 2-3 hours in a year to refresh. So I hope that worked for you. And now there is still a little bit of the synchronicity. Yes, there is a little bit of time if you want to share anything, asking the audience or ask a question. I will try now using technology, still learning, and Judy said, no mercy. I will try to push a magic button to unmute you so you can all be able to speak. Probably now you should be able to unmute yourself. Maybe someone can check. Maybe someone wants to share something, ask a question, and you can try to unmute. I hope it should work. How does it work?
It works.
Whoa, yeah. So, do you want to share reflections, insights, ask a question? You have now the possibility to
I just want to say congratulations, Dorota. I'm so glad that you ran this. And you might want to let Judy know that she's my new best friend, but she just doesn't know it yet.
I will. Thank you, Wendy. So yes, and Wendy supported me on my weaker moments regarding the symposium this year and encouraged me a lot to continue. So thank you, Wendy.
Yes, I guess I would also like to thank you, Dorota, because this is a beautiful thing you are doing here, and for the third time. It's wonderful. It's my first time here, but really congratulations from the depth of my heart. It's not because I was presenting, it's just because it's so rich and beautiful in what everyone is saying. And yeah, lovely, lovely. Keep doing that. And why don't we meet in person, really? I like Mandy's idea. I could help you. You already have a team. So that's wonderful.
Let's see where is the middle of the world next year, and we can meet at this middle point. Yeah, would be great. Who would come to a conference not online but in real? You can write in the chat whoever is interested. Let's test it. Yeah.
Dorota, I would be really interested to hear from anyone in the audience who maybe is in other parts of the world, rather than maybe just Europe or North America. If there's anyone else there, here today, in terms of other, practices or appropriate ways of, or more culturally appropriate ways of delivering the work where they are, or any ethical implications, or etc., or legal stuff that might be helpful for others in the group, but also just for interest's sake. And and also I'd say I'd love to be involved in a conference, and I'd be very happy to be part of some kind of organising committee or whatever, if that's appropriate. So thank you so much, Dorota.
You can put your email address, Ruth. Maybe someone will contact you. But anyway, after the symposium, as last year and 2 years ago, I will be sending an email to everyone, kind of a newsletter, and I will share the contact names and the emails to all the speakers, because you might connect. So all the speakers, thank you very much. You're all great speakers. You're all great professionals, and you do a lot. You have a lot of achievements in terms of methods, books, conferences. So there is a lot to learn still from you. Yeah. Sabine is asking if someone from Germany, so you can see in the chat if there's someone from Germany that do connect. Good. So thank you everyone who joined in online. And if you have any more questions later on, you can always contact me or the speakers. You will receive the emails to them. I'm glad we did it. And actually, I among the participants, it's for the first time actually that I'm seeing really like a few not want to say many, but really a number of people from Poland, from where I come from. So I'm very glad. It really makes me, I'm very moved about that, about seeing you, the guys from Poland, everyone, of course. I'm seeing many faces I know, but that's something special for me. Yes, right. Still things happen in the chat, so keeping it. Thank you very much. I wish you good evening, good continuation of the weekend, and everything that can happen for you. Follow your instincts, follow your dreams, and do it mindfully. You can always contact other people from the community. You are not alone. We don't invent from nothing. So connect to the people and connect to the community and grow in line with your soul, letting your soul speak and guide you. Thank you very much. Hello, Gian Petro. I'm seeing you. We met in London a few months ago. Amy, what do you mean by resource list? I would love to answer your question. Like, if you're asking about, maybe you can write it in the chat. Resource list, people list. People list. Well, you can go, Amy, to if you're on Facebook, you can go to Judy Weiser, to the phototherapy group on. I will link. I will hyperlink this group in the email after the symposium. It's more than 12,000 people there, and the group is very alive. They're very lively, and whoever posts a question about anything, there are people always answer. So it's a very great place to look for resources, for contacts, for research, etc. So I think it's a very good place to post your questions. Yeah. You remember. Oh, okay. Well, you can email me, so I can understand better, and maybe I can help you with anything. I'll be happy to refer you to any people you could be of use for you. I'm trying to follow the chat. Well, Sabine, if you want to know a little bit more about my course on photos in coaching, you can stay. I will close the symposium in a moment, and I will stay and I will say a few things about that to those who are interested, because there is a group of people interested. So I just offered this meeting after the symposium to not to duplicate events. So you can stay, Sabine, for a moment. Good. Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye. Thank you, the speakers also.
Thank you so much, Dorota. Been
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorota. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ellen. Thank you. Love to see you. Bridget, Nikki.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's been lovely. Thank you, Dorota.
Thank you, Bridget.
See you again.
Yeah, see you soon next year in Chester.
In the chat, someone's offered Belfast as well for a conference. So
yes. Let's see. Thank you, Michał, for coming. Okay, just a few moments to those who still want to leave, and if not, I'll be sharing more information about my course, so so I can answer your questions about it in case you want. I will, in the meantime, I will open my my slides about the course.
A great course, so people there's a lot of people staying, which is good. Shall I disappear and leave you to it? And
it's
thank
up to you. You can stay, you can leave. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll hover then.
Yes, I'm trying to find my slides. Where did I put it? Just a moment. Just a little second. Yes. No. Can't see this. Don't know why. If I don't find, I will speak, and that's it. So no problem. I can't find it. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so those of you who are here, if you're interested in the 16 people in the course, I'll be now talking about the course